Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menonton agenda AWANI bersama saya, Nala Huda. Dan hari ini genap 9 tahun sejak negara ditimpa tragedi MH370. Apabila pesawat itu lenyap ketika dalam penerbangan dan nasib 239 penumpang dan anak kapal sehingga kini masih lagi menjadi misteri. Namun, bagi waris mangsa tragedi MH370, mereka berharap pada tahun ini Kerajaan Baharu dapat menyuntik juga nafas baharu dalam pencarian MH370. Dan Menteri Pengangkutan Baharu Anthony Loke juga berkata kerajaan terbuka kepada pertimbangan untuk pencarian pesawat MH370 jika terdapat maklumat baharu dan mereka juga tidak akan melupakan tragedi MH370 ini. Dan untuk jam ini kami ingin bawakan perkongsian waris mangsa tragedi MH370 sempena dengan ulang tahun ke-9 tragedi ini. Dan sudah bersedia bersama saya ketika ini Grace Nathan dan Jennifer Chong. Thank you Grace and Jennifer for joining me today on Agenda AWANI. Firstly, I would just like to hear your thoughts on this 9-year anniversary of MH370. Grace, if you'd like to begin, what are your thoughts and how do you feel 9 years on?
Well, 9 years is a long time, I think, for anyone. And for us, especially for me personally, this year has felt like, for me, it has been quite mind-blowing that it's been 9 years. It suddenly just occurred to me like, oh, wow, has it really been 9 years? And every day, I mean, we all carry on with our lives. We have spent a lot of time trying to rebuild our lives and move forward. But at the same time, it's very difficult to forget about this tragedy and sort of move on from it because it still holds so much importance to all of us.
Jennifer, how do you feel 9 years on?
Yeah, 9 years to me is just feel like yesterday. I didn't really realize that it has been 9 years. So I think part of me is like I left part of me for 9 years ago. But then another part of me is like wanting the closure because it's been dragging for so long and it's getting dried up. So all sorts of mixed feelings in my day-to-day lives, also the same thing. On between the two. But this is not possible if we haven't found the answer for our loved one, like what happens. Seriously, we couldn't have the closure, even though we are, longing for that.
That's really what we want to talk about today, about finding closure, finding the answers. But before we get to that, you guys recently, through Voice 370, put out a statement in which you said, as long as we remain in the dark about what happened to MH370, we will never be able to prevent a similar tragedy from happening again. What do you mean by this, Grace?
So, as we all know, MH370 is the world's greatest aviation mystery, perhaps even one of the greatest mysteries of all time. And until and unless we find out exactly why MH370 vanished from our skies, we will never be able to prevent something similar from happening again. And it's one of the situations where today it's us, but tomorrow it could be you, because thousands, maybe even millions of people board a flight every single day. And every single time your loved ones take to the skies, you never know what's going to happen. And MH370 is something that can repeat itself. Touch wood, we hope it never does. I never want to see MH370 happen again. And that is one of the main reasons at this point where we are today, that we believe that the search should be conducted to its conclusion. We have to find MH370 and we have to know why it disappeared, why it vanished, what happened, why did MH370 turn around, why did it continue to fly off course for 8 hours, what happened, why did it happen? 9 years on, we are still asking the same questions that we asked on day one. And until we know these answers, how do we prevent this from happening again?
Jennifer, you said it feels like it happened just yesterday, and I hate to have to reopen old wounds and have to unleash this trauma again. But if it's okay for you to share, what was it like on the day that it happened?
It felt like your whole world is just turned around, and it is very bizarre because I always think that I hope that it is a normal aviation accident, that I am sure that, I have no other hopes. But for MH370, 9 years on, I'm still in tears if I talk about it, if I think about it, I'm sorry. It is like we have so much hopes and false hopes and all this thing, and then we have been chasing theories and stories and rumors and all sort of possibilities. It's like, for these 9 years, I'm an aviation specialist. I studied all the accident and none of them are like MH370. And I go through all the theories, even in the early days. It's like one of my job is being an investigator. So life is tough. It's really, nothing can comfort us because like nobody can understand. Some people would say, oh, it's been 9 years. Why don't you just settle down and, you know, just carry on your life? And we just couldn't because, you know, we haven't got an answer yet. And I think it's unfair if we are going to, you know, live on our life and leave our loved one behind without. If they're going to lose their life, I hope that the life is worth losing in the sense that we can find out what happened and we can, you know, to prevent this thing to happen again, because we're going through the whole ordeal. We doesn't wish anyone to, you know, going through the same thing again, the same tragedy again. It would be very, very sad to let this thing happen again.
So in this pursuit for truth, we want to talk about the new government as well. Under Anwar Ibrahim's leadership, do you perhaps have a renewed sense of hope and optimism? We want to talk about what's already been said by Anwar Ibrahim himself after being elected as Prime Minister, and also by Anthony Loke, the new Transport Minister. They said that they're open to considering a new search for MH370 if there are new information as to the location or potential location of the flight. So, Grace, what do you have to say about this? Do you have a renewed sense of hope and optimism?
I definitely feel that I have a renewed sense of hope and optimism because we have dealt with this current Transport Minister, YB Anthony Loke, briefly in 2020 when he was also the Transport Minister before the government then collapsed. And he was always very open to us, and that was always refreshing to us. And he seemed to care quite sincerely about our cause. And we hope that his sincerity continues through and he sees this thing through, because he did say recently in a statement that he shared with us for the remembrance event, he did say that he does not want to summarily close the chapter on the search for MH370. And I truly believe that he is sincere in his words. And I think that that is the most hope that we have had in a long, long time for the search for MH370 to resume. In terms of our current Prime Minister, I'm aware that in the early days of the incident, in the first few months after the plane disappeared back in 2014, that he was quite determined, and he felt that the plane should be found, that the search must go on till the plane is found. And I hope that he keeps these promises, or he feels the same way that he felt 9 years ago now, because I believe that it will be a joint effort between the Transport Minister and the Prime Minister. Should any proposal come from Ocean Infinity, it will be a joint effort from the Transport Minister and the Prime Minister to approve or authorize such a search, and for such a search to resume.
Jennifer, how do you feel about the government's commitment to the search for truth? Are you optimistic?
I remain hopeful, but I also very cautious about this new credible evidence that they have been using it. And I think we have been waiting about 5 years since the last search by Ocean Infinities ended in June 2018, almost 5 years now. And I think this new credible evidence would not just fall down from the sky. And with Ocean Infinities open for no cure, no search fees, the free for if you can't find the plan. I think it is, the government have nothing to lose if they actually take on the contract, because if they couldn't find the plan, then they don't have to pay anything. So hopefully that, they don't hide behind the excuse of there's no evidence, no new evidence that we couldn't do anything. I'm remaining cautious, but still hopeful.
Jennifer, for you, how do you see the importance of transparency when we're talking about MH370? I mean, you're cautious in your optimism about the new government, about a renewed sense of hope, but at the same time, we have yet to see full transparency. Why and how important is this for you?
It is very important because from the very beginning, we get very little support from the government or the airline itself. We have been asking for questions, and even though we are the families, we are always kept at the dark. I still remember that in the early days, like 2015 or 16, me and Grace, we actually wanted to meet up with the tripartite when they are having their meetings, and we was being let in the dark room because they doesn't want us to be seen, in together with the media and all these things. And we find that it is very sad because all we want to know is information, facts. And I think it is very important, and also not only for the families, the transparency on the aviation world will be a safer aviation in the future.
Grace, what are your thoughts about this, the need for transparency and openness in talking about MH370?
I think there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of transparency. We are aware that from the early days until today, there's some information regarding MH370 that has never been released either in full or at all. For example, we have the military radar data that has never been released. And we have, for example, a full cargo manifest. I think that has been released in part, but not in full. And I believe that, like, for example, security reasons shouldn't be the same reasons why military radar data is not released 9 years on. We cannot still cite security. I personally believe we cannot still cite security concerns because what was security concerns 9 years ago couldn't possibly be the same today. And we've probably upgraded our security and it may not be a concern anymore. And perhaps the government should consider, even if not releasing it publicly, but releasing it to maybe certain authorities under a strict non-disclosure agreement for certain authorities to study it, to see if there's any information that can come to light, anything that can help us maybe further locate, precisely know what happened to the plane, which can help us precisely locate the endpoint and search for the plane. This could be the credible new evidence that they themselves seek. And in terms of the full cargo manifest, again, I still don't know why would you withhold that 9 years on.
Now, talking about developments in the search, last year the US-based marine robotics company Ocean Infinity said that they were keen to embark on another search for MH370. Jennifer, what do you know about this, and what have been the communications like with Ocean Infinity?
I think the latest, they say that they are available, pending for the approval from Malaysian government, that they can start the search like as early as the summer of 2023, which is like right now. Yes, so, as far as I'm concerned, we have just received this message from for our anniversary today.
Grace, perhaps you can share a little bit more about Ocean Infinity. I mean, they were already involved with the search earlier on, and now they say that they're open to embark on another search. Are you optimistic about this?
I'm optimistic because, I mean, although they were unsuccessful in their maiden foray in 2018, they are still the world's leading underground search company. They have the most up-to-date technology, the latest, the best technology available. And if anyone can do it, they can. And also, ever since the previous search, they've actually undertaken a lot of research. They have done a lot of their own homework in trying to come up with a better proposal. And the fact that they are willing to go out and search again, especially on a no-cure, no-fee basis, I think that is a win-win situation for all the stakeholders involved, not only the Malaysian government, but everybody stands to benefit from MH370 being found. The entire flying population, the flying public, the governments, all the governments who had passengers on the plane, the big airline industries like Boeing, Airbus, and all the major airlines that fly passengers everywhere around the world. And I am hopeful that if they are allowed, that at least we have better chances of finding MH370. We're not going to find MH370 without searching. And I don't see any harm in another no-cure, no-fee search.
Now, I do just want to talk about the importance of keeping the light on in talking about the tragedy. This is perhaps not related, but there's been a lot of buzz surrounding MH370 again after it was reported that Netflix is releasing a new limited series trying to uncover the mystery through the perspectives of a lot of investigators, private investigators that have been focused on this search. Grace, how do you feel about this? Because some are saying that it's still too soon to be releasing a series, a TV show about this, but some are also saying that this has given it, renewed hope and a new light, shedding a new light on this mystery. What do you think? Grace?
Personally, for me personally, and I believe many of the next of kin, keeping the spotlight on MH370 hasn't been easy because as the years go on, of course, it fades from people's memories. We don't blame them. They were not personally affected or impacted by the tragedy. And I don't know how the Netflix documentary is going to play out. I haven't watched it, and it's only coming out, I believe, today. So it depends how it goes, but if it really reaches a wide audience, and from that audience, people then develop an interest in the search for MH370, especially the Malaysian population, what is of concern to the population is of concern to the government. And I believe that if it becomes of concern to the population, then the government will feel an impetus or more pressure to take it more seriously and perhaps act on it a little bit quicker. We don't know what the effects will be, but for us, like some highlight on MH370, especially on such a wide audience base or such a wide platform, has very big potential benefits for the cause, for the search on cause that we have been campaigning for the last 9 years.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, there's a lot of sensitivities that need to be taken into account before, we're talking about a TV show, but how do you think? Is it okay to be talking about this in mainstream media again? Is it important that they take into account the sensitivities of family members, or maybe at the same time you appreciate that it's being put in the spotlight again? What are your thoughts?
I think first and foremost, I think I welcome the show. I think it is good and it's necessary to remind the public can be reminded of this tragedy. It has not been solved yet, and I haven't processed. But when we're talking, it's like, what is my response if I watch the show? I don't know, but I will take the courage. I will still watch it and see how it goes. Yeah, it's definitely a heartbreaking one, I'm sure. Yes, so I can imagine. I'm probably in tears, but then I think it is good and necessary and I welcome any media coverage, whether it's good or bad, just to make sure that MH370 is not being forgotten by the public.
Right, now 9 years on and almost coming into 10 years now. I mean, Jennifer, you were talking a bit earlier about how other people were saying that, it's 9 years now, you should probably move on. And that's just something that's impossible to do when it's something so traumatic and something that is still lingering and hanging by a thread, like the answer is just not there anymore. And perhaps there's not a single answer that's being offered to this day. We're talking about MH370, obviously in conjunction with the 9-year anniversary, today. But, it's something that's being now looked as just a one-day anniversary in an entire year. Why is it important to keep talking about MH370, not just on the anniversary, but to take into account justice and accountability and transparency? Jennifer, why is it hard to move on? Why is it impossible to move on from this? And why is it important that we talk about MH370 to this day?
It is hard because I think that is more on the psychology or emotional aspect, and it's very difficult for me people don't understand why why can't you just leave it? I just can't, because I think I've made the promise on the very early days that I would not give up searching for an answer. For my husband and also for my children to know what happened to their father. And I think in the very early days that when we found this Voice 370, the MH370 families associations, our main objective, of course, is to support one another, the families, but the other one, and we really wanted to be the voice that to be heard out literally there, so that people will be more aware of it, and then we wanted to be a voice for a safer aviation world. This we will keep on pushing and fighting and not letting go. It is not easy. Sometimes you just feel like, okay, I want to stop, but something just keep pulling. It's very difficult for me to pinpoint why, but then I know that I must do it, and I will do it. That's why we are still hanging there.
Yeah. Grace, what about you? 9 years on, why is it important for us to be reminded of what happened, of MH370 and the need for an answer, the need for truth?
Well, I don't get tired of repeating myself when it comes to this, but I feel like everyone should just be painfully aware of the fact that until we find out what happened to MH370, there's absolutely no hope of preventing a similar tragedy from happening again. And I just believe that people need to be aware that MH370 is really just not history, it's the future of aviation safety. And that's why I believe that it's not so much, I mean, in the early days, like Jennifer said, it was a lot about our grief, our need for closure on an emotional level. But as the weeks became months and the months became years, my personal feelings especially have migrated away from my own need for closure towards the need for towards the need for safer skies, for aviation safety. So I think now the primary concern is that we find the plane so that we can prevent something like this from happening again, where it can affect any one of us at any time. And at the same time, as a secondary concern, it will also bring us the much needed closure and the answers that we have been looking for.
I do want to talk a little bit about the network of support that you guys have through Voice 370. I mean, Jennifer and Grace, I'm sure you know of each other. What is it like 9 years on, that having that network of support through this organization, Voice 370, and why is it important to have that kind of support between the next of kin, family members of the victims of MH370? Jennifer, describe to us what it's like, the support that you have through this Voice 370.
I think it's very comforting to have this network supporting. And in the early days, we don't know what to do, and we just come together, and then it's very comforting that we knowing that 9 years on, and then we are still hanging on. We are not fighting. Me and Grace are not fighting alone, but there's a group of families, like-minded. They are still hanging on there, doing as much as they can, even though it seems to be insignificant, but they're still hanging there. That is very comforting.
For you, Grace, how's the friendship and the relationships bonded through Voice 370? How have they evolved throughout the years, 9 years on now?
There's always been a sense of community because like everyone says, tragedy unites people. But for us, what was unique was these people that are part of Voice 370 are the only people in the world who understand what you're going through, because they're the only people in the world who have suffered a similar fate, who have gone through the same thing. Nobody else has gone through the same what we're going through. And having just that sense of common shared, and like everything, we share our grief, we shared our concerns, we had that in common, and that kept us close and kept us bonded. And over the years, I believe like many people's lives have taken them on different paths, and we may not be as close as we used to be, but just knowing that these people are there when you need them, and that we still share the same concerns, and we still want the plane to be found, that always brings us a sense of relief and a sense of comfort, because you're not alone, that you have a lot of other people who are battling the same battles that you are battling.
Now, lastly, just to wrap things up, we were talking a lot about the need for closure, the need for finding the answer, the truth, and also that renewed sense of hope with the new leadership under Anwar Ibrahim's leadership, with Anthony Loke on board. Just to wrap things up, really, Jennifer, what's one message that you would like to send out to the authorities and to society at large listening to us right now and watching us in light and in conjunction with the 9-year anniversary? What should be of utmost importance if we want to remember those in MH370 and for us to support those who were affected by MH370? What is of utmost importance to you, Jennifer? What would you like to say to the government and to society to help you get through the 9-year anniversary and for the years to come?
I think the most important thing is the result of the new search, and I hope that the authority will hear our message and also see the necessary for not only the closure for us family, and also because Malaysia, they owe the 239 lives because they actually was in the observation of the military radar for an hour, and then they just let it blow off, and then they owe the life to at least to go and find them, give an answer. And also we also very thankful for all the friends and and the public who have given us the support. And we need more voices, not only the families, but more voices from the public to actually to to make sure that the search need to be restarted again.
And Grace, lastly, the government at this point in time is still considering the option to embark on a new search if given, new opportunities or if offered new information as to the location or potential location of the flight. What do you make of this? And just, to wrap things up, Grace, with this potential new search, what do you hope is different this time around?
Well, I think firstly, what the message I would like to send the government is that I hope that they're open to a new search for many, many reasons. One being that this is a very novel mystery, a novel accident. It's never happened anywhere in the world before. So we will set the standards for similar aviation accidents moving forward. We will be setting the precedent. And we don't want to set a precedent where we just say, oh, never mind, let's throw the towel in, let's give up. Because for the world's largest aviation mystery, it's going to be the world's longest search. It's going to be the world's largest search. And that's just how it's going to be. And I feel that if ever finances are a concern, like they're concerned that if the plane is found, how will they then pay Ocean Infinity? I think that that should not be a concern for the government. It should be the last concern on their list, because I think if it was ever a financial concern, they should just step up to the plate and look for support in the other countries that were involved in this tragedy. We have China, the world's second largest economy. We have Australia, all of which who had passengers on the plane who could financially contribute to a no-cure, no-fee arrangement financially if necessary. We have these huge industries like Boeing and Airbus who all stand to benefit from finding out what happened to MH370, because it could have potentially been some sort of technical failure, which needs to be something that they need to update in all of their aircrafts. There's just so many options if it is a financial reason that is holding them back. Apart from a financial reason, I do not see any other reason not to embark on a no-cure, no-fee search. That is what I would say to the government of Malaysia. The previous government may not have been as accountable, but this government has always said in their manifesto that they are going to be a responsible government, an honest government, and an accountable government. We want to see them put that into practice, even for MH370. And for the flying public, I think that they just need to remember that every time someone they love gets on a plane, that plane could vanish. And that's just not something anyone wants to go through. That it is a matter of concern, it is a matter of importance, and everyone should look at it more safely, with more seriousness, because it concerns safety.
Thank you so much, Grace, and thank you as well to Jennifer for joining us today. Itu saja perkongsian untuk Jamin dalam agenda AWANI. Terima kasih kepada Grace, Nathan dan Jennifer Chong sudi bersama kami dalam agenda AWANI sempena ulang tahun ke-9 tragedi MH370. Itu saja untuk Jamin bersama saya, Nala Huda. Salam hormat.